Hey there everyone, Pala here, and welcome back. Today we're doing a Hey What's That? Earth Defense Force 4.1, or EDF as I'm going to call it. This is, now, if you know I'm wrong, correct me in the comments down below, but from what I can tell, this is the PC version of EDF 4, which was on the PS3, also known as EDF 2025 in Japan. So I think in Japan it was called 2025. For Western release, they called it EDF 4. Now for PC, it's 4.1. Personally, I was hesitant to pick this one up, and I imagine quite a few other people fall in this place, as these smaller Japanese developers are not always known for the best ports to PC. Start off with From Software and the original Dark Souls, the Prepare to Die edition on PC, was a really bad port, though I'll defend that game to the death. Then you have a lot of like the Koei Tecmo games, some of the Capcom games that have just been poor ports. So I was really concerned about this one, especially because there is another EDF game. There's Insect Armageddon, I think it's called, which is like EDF 5, which is on PC, and it's both a bad game and a bad port. So I went into this very cautiously, hesitant, because it's $35 right now on sale, and I was like, but thanks to the Steam refund system, I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. If it turns out to be a bad port, I'll just refund it and get my money back. It's something I gotta take more use of. Let's try these games. If they're bad, get our monies back. So I went ahead and picked it up, and the good news is, while it is a very basic port, and I'll explain why in a moment, overall it actually runs fairly well. In fact, it runs surprisingly well, a good solid 60 FPS. So by basic port, I mean it's the bare minimum to get it to run on PC. Inside the video setting options, basically you can choose shadows on or off, anti-aliasing on and off, you can apply a filter on and off, and then you can you can adjust your resolution, widescreen, and letterbox. That's your video settings. There's really nothing else. The good news is, even with those settings, because this is originally a PS3 game, and they've not gone in, they've not added textures or overhauled the graphics, it's still the PS3 graphical settings, most computers with these amount of options are going to be able to run this thing fairly well. On my computer, that is now starting to show a bit of its age with its, what is it, an i5, it's a 3rd gen i5 and a 770. I get a constant 60 FPS out of this thing with the 1920 by 1080, plus all the shadows, AA, and all of that on. A good solid 60 FPS. And really what this is going to push is, the game has a funky physics engine, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, where you're going to see a lot of ragdoll effects and buildings coming down and stuff, and that's where your card's probably going to get tested. If you do have an older computer that can't do physics, you might run into some problems, as there is environmental destruction and ragdolls and all of that. So in terms of graphics, it's a basic port. Controls, it's kind of basic, but a bit better than basic. So the game is designed to be played with a gamepad. Xbox 360, PS3 controller, one of those, dual thumbsticks, dual trigger type gamepad. And with that, basically when the game launches, if you hit A or X or whatever on a controller, it prioritizes that. But it does have full keyboard and mouse support. So you can play this with keyboard and mouse, you can rebind and set custom controls through that, and it works reasonably well. I will say though, that similar to Dark Souls, clearly the game was designed for a controller. And while you can play it with keyboard and mouse, I played through one entire level with it. It just, for me, didn't feel very fluid. I just didn't really enjoy the keyboard and mouse play, so I went right back to controller. But controller support, or keyboard and mouse support, does work, is rebindable, and all of that. So that's your basic port settings. Overall, it's really, really good. I get a really steady 60 FPS on my system. I've not had any crashes. I had one level where there was kind of an event going on in the background, and twice, I think 3 times, I think like the script for that event locked up a little bit. So I'd be going along, and very quickly, like half second, you would just get this burp of the sound. The sound would just go burp as it was trying to figure out what it was doing, and the game would just halt for half a second. And I did that 2, maybe 3 times on just one level, like the 4th or 5th level it did it on. I'm now 12 levels in, and no other levels I've had any problems with it. It's never crashed, the frame rate stays stable outside of those few little instances. And I was recording, or I had my recording software running at that time, so it could have been related to that. So overall, the game performance is pretty good. Now that that's all out of the way, What is EDF and why should you maybe consider it? Well, EDF to me is one of those guilty pleasures. It's a very cathartic game that I almost put in the same, not genre, but category as I would games like Dynasty Warriors and Diablo. There's some games, or there's that time where I come home sometimes from work or anything, where you just want to kill a few thousand of something. And I realize that comment could be taken really bad out of context. Hopefully I don't get arrested by the FBI. Anyway, you come in and you want some mindless fun. And Diablo is great for this. You just go out there and you kill a few thousand demons over the course of an hour. Dynasty Warriors, you go out and you kill a bunch of peasant serfs and an occasional lord. Just great for that. This game is very much the same vein of that, but it's a third-person shooter where you're killing giant insects, ants, and spiders, and I think there's scorpions later on, but there's also aliens, and giant robots, and motherships. It's just, you know what it is? It is a mystery science theater bad movie in video game form. Like one of those really bad where everything's in the rubber suits, and they have the bad, like the ants from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the original one. Did they ever do a remake? Doesn't matter. The old one, like those really bad looking ants. It's all of that, but done in a game where you're just killing them. And the game's just that. It's unbelievably simplistic. You go out, you're on a map that's a city, mostly on a city, and all the buildings are destructible, and it's just getting overrun by these ants and spiders and aliens. And you go around and you kill everything. And you have these crazy weapons, some of these crazy suits, and we'll talk about the different classes here in a moment. And you kill all the insects, try to save as many people as you can, but if people die, the game doesn't really care. It doesn't stop you as long as you kill the insects. You'll have friendly soldiers running around shouting stupid things. You'll sing out cadences, and they'll chant back EDF and save the earth. And it's so campy and generic and cheap and dumb, but it's also enjoyable in the right mindset. Sometimes you just want this type of game, and it does that really well. So gameplay-wise, you have a standard campaign, story-driven campaign. I don't know how many missions it is. I haven't got it. I'm up to mission 12. That can be played either solo or split-screen co-op, in front of one computer. But there is also an online multiplayer mode where you and 3 friends can group up in a squad and play. This is probably the way the game is going to be best played. Unfortunately, I don't know anybody that has the game, so I'm just playing it solo. But the game does have quite a few different difficulties, and the higher difficulties, you can die really, really quick. So a group of 4 friends playing together on the high difficulties, I think would be really, really enjoyable. Once you do get into the game, there are 4 different classes. You have the standard ranger, who seems very simplistic, and I guess he is overall pretty darn simplistic, but don't underestimate him. He's actually quite effective. He's got a lot of really good weapons, and his weapons don't have any real drawbacks to them. They're just really good. You have rifles, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, shotguns, all kinds of stuff that you can throw out there. He also gets weapons that can heal tanks, heal other soldiers. You then have my favorite character, or favorite class, the Wing Diver. They sacrifice a lot of survivability for mobility, so they got a rocket pack or a jet pack that has an energy bar. Now, to balance them, they have the lowest health. So you can die real quickly, but you also have the most mobility. You can jump around through things. The interesting concept with them is most of their weapons, they draw their power from your wingsuit. So whenever you reload, they do a big power dump in your suit. And what'll happen is if you run your jetpack all the way down to 0, run it out of energy, you're then grounded for 8 seconds or so, give or take 6-8 seconds, until it fully recharges. And since you have low health, you don't want to be on the ground. You can die very quickly in that, especially in the higher difficulties. So you have to balance this aspect of mobility, using your jump jets to jump around, get through things, but you have to be careful whenever you go to reload your weapon. You're going to take a noticeable hit in your energy jump pack, depending on your weapon. The bigger the weapon, the more the hit on your energy, so the fewer you can fire. But you do have unlimited ammo because of this, and I find it to be really enjoyable. There is then the Air Ranger, I think it's called. It's a weird name. The guy's support. He's artillery support. So he basically has longer range weapons that do high explosive damage. He wants to stay further back from most people. He can summon in a tank and an artillery piece that he can get in and drive himself. He can also designate areas for off-screen support. Like he can call in like an AC-130 gunship to pelt the area and stuff. He can call in long-range missiles into areas and really blast things. I've not played this guy very much because he kind of needs the other players to keep things at distance from him. If he gets in tight, he's in trouble. So I don't play him very often. I'm not sure how good he actually is. And lastly is the mini mech guy. I think it's called a Sentinel. I don't have the game running in front of me. I'm recording this post. I think he's called a Sentinel. He's kind of in this mini mech suit, and you can get a weapon on each arm. So like I run a dual minigun, so I have a minigun on both arms because the miniguns have this long fire spin up. They also have a real long reload. So I'll fire the one gun until it's down to about 80 rounds left, and then I'll start firing the second gun. And at that time, the first gun will run out, and by the time it's reloaded, the second one will be starting to get a little low, and then once it's down to about 80, and you can keep a constant rate of fire going out. But you can do a weapon on each arm that then swap out to two different weapons. So then you can do like a shield on one arm and a missile launcher or a howitzer or another minigun. You can get a big hammer and just walk around whacking ants with a big hammer. This guy on paper seems really cool, and I suppose he is cool. He's too slow for me. He has a very slow mobility speed. And the game, just the flow of the game for me in EDF is constantly moving forward. You move in and there's a big, huge goggle of aliens, and you blow them away, and then you move to the next one and the next one. You're constantly moving forward. You're also constantly running around picking up armor and health and weapon pickups all over the map. So every character, every class can get a huge amount of weapons. I have no idea how many. Let's do Donald Trump. A huge amount of weapons. And there's different versions. Like, so the basic Marine Ranger guy can have like 4 or 5 different versions of his basic weapon that just gets more damage. But then there's alternatives to it. There's ones with larger magazines, more damage. There's shotguns, different versions of shotguns. There's rocket launchers that are tracking, rocket launchers that are dual fire, ones that are big and slow but do a massive amount of damage. High rate of fire. There's big grenade launchers for lobbing things in. There's just massive amounts of weapons all over. So you run around as you're killing things, you're picking up these green armor or green weapon crates that if you succeed and complete the mission, when you go back, might have a new weapon in for you. There's also armor upgrades, which are very static and linear, so you can't go in, you won't get like a neat helmet or a chest piece with a bonus or boots that increase your speed. No, it's just if you pick up an armor upgrade, if you complete the mission, when you go back, for like if you pick up 5 armor upgrades, you'll go back. The next time you go out, you'll have 5 additional health for that class. So there is a loot system built within the game. And that's basically the entire thing. You and either by yourself or a few friends go out. The game's going to give you a bunch of corny, cheesy dialogue lines, point you towards a bunch of aliens or ants, and have you just blow them away, picking up loot and armor. When you get strong enough, you up the difficulty, and then the aliens and the ants and spiders are stronger, and you blow them away. There's giant robotic mechs you can get in. There's tanks shooting missiles in. And it's just silly, nonsensical, easy massacre of ants. There's not a whole lot to describe here. The game's good for what it is. You know, it's shallow. It doesn't have any real complexity to it. But that's okay for the right price, for the right expectations. If you go in with those right expectations, I said price there. So here's my one big concern. Right now is a good time of year for releasing games, as we're kind of in the AAA drought. On console, they could put this game out there and, you know, it would probably do fairly well. Here on the PC, though, right now, it's on sale 30% off for $35. Regular price is $50. And I just look at PC and I look at all the games. RimWorld just came out on Steam with early access. You can play RimWorld, which is really good. Starbound just came out of early access. There's a huge amount of updates for free-to-play games. The MMOs are getting updates right now. There's a lot of content on PC. While consoles definitely have... Their summer drought is better than it used to be. They still go through a bit of a summer drought. On PC, between updates to games like Overwatch, plus everything else I just mentioned, content coming out in World of Warships, I bought the game, but I do feel it was overpriced. You know, and you have to look at your own back catalog and what it is you're looking to play. If you don't have a lot that you're looking to play, EDF 4.1 is fun, good, enjoyable romp, but $35 is a lot to ask. $50 is way too much. If you're on the fence, I would definitely say put it on your wish list and watch for it to be $15 or $20. At $15, this is an instant must-buy for most people, I would recommend, that want this type of gameplay. It's good, honest, cheap, cheesy, fun. It's hard to justify that price tag, though. That's my one concern about it. Solid port, if limited. Enjoyable gameplay, great co-op experience, probably. Probably, if I could enjoy it. But probably a little overpriced. Alright, there you have it. That's EDF 4.1. Until next time, this has been Paller. Thanks for watching.